Hi, my name is Anna and I'd like to share a story with you. This is a story from when I was a full-time streamer a few years ago, streaming at the time to quite a large audience and interacting with the chat. I like to talk to my viewers a lot and see the comments, chat away. And in one of these moments of chatting away, a viewer said in the live chat, "Anna, is there a chance you're autistic?" And I remember at the time I responded as politely as I could that I don't think it's the case, but this comment stayed with me and it hurt me. It hurt me and it made me so confused. Why would someone think that? What did I say or do that makes this person feel like I have something that I don't? And I guess in general, I was just like, surely they are not right, but I now need reassurance. This comment stayed with me for the next few weeks to such extent that when I went to my therapy session the next time, I asked the psychologist I was working with if she thinks that I'm autistic or is there any ground to this comment? Should I do a test? She reassured me that she thinks that I'm just probably introverted but very normal. I have social skills and I can maintain eye contact. So she said that I'm definitely not autistic. And with that, I was happy continuing with my life as if this comment never happened, and there's no point to it, of course, because I am clearly a very normal person. Fast forward to present day, I'm 37 and I've recently been diagnosed with autism. I guess to fill the gap in between, like when I was offended by this comment and how it is now, there's the big gap about my ignorance. I always thought, at the time especially so, that being an autistic person means that you are like the character in Rain Man, portrayed by Dustin Hoffman, who is this genius, can count cards, but he's also socially very awkward. And that's all I knew about autism. I thought that's how an autistic person is, that it's someone who is very obviously intelligent but socially awkward. That's all I thought, that's all I knew, and that's now I realize is very ignorant. There's also quite a stigma on autism. It took me a lot of thinking back and forth in my head whether I should even record this video, because now I'm like, oh, but now people will have this label on me that I'm autistic. Wow, do I want this? I think the answer, after a lot of back and forth in my head, is I don't want there to be a stigma on any mental health, whether it's mine or someone else's. It's really something that we should seek, that we understand ourselves better, whether it's a diagnosis or whether that you understand yourself better in terms of what are the struggles and challenges that you deal with. It's such a valuable information. It's so helpful to know your inner world better. I want to embrace that I got this diagnosis. I want to, in fact, celebrate it. I put on this shiny top to celebrate that I'm autistic, and I'm gonna be proud of this, and I'm gonna learn from this, because there's still so many question marks in my head. I'm 37 and my whole life I thought that I'm just normal but introverted and that's it. A little bit geeky, you know, I like chess and all, but now there's like this entire world that I'm learning about and I want to continue learning about. I thought that in today's video, I would first of all celebrate, and second of all, try to learn a bit more about what actually is autism. Maybe through this self-discovery and reflection video, you can also learn something about yourself. You don't need to be an autistic person to learn about yourself. You don't need to be a neurodivergent person. God bless you. I belong to you guys now. I thought I was neurotypical, now I'm neurodivergent. There's so many terms I didn't even know what it means. I hope that with this video, I can help you as well understand yourself a bit better, whether you are neurodivergent or neurotypical. I think there's a lot that we can learn about ourselves, to learn how our brain works and how a lot of things are so different depending on our own little inner world, our own challenges, our own struggles. And I think when you get to learn about yourself and accept who you are, that's when you can truly learn and grow and become a better version of yourself and embrace what you have and grow from there. There's always going to be things, I think, that are probably harder for me than to others now that I'm learning about my own challenges, but I'm working on them, and we are all a work in progress, I guess. We are all a work in process. We are all a work in progress. I don't even know how you say that sentence, but I'm just gonna go with that. Without further ado, I want to bring in a friend of mine who will help us understand what it means to be 37 and discover that you have a mental condition that you didn't know. So I gotta call my friend. He's super helpful. He helps me with a lot of things. He's a bit shy. Hey GP, what's up, buddy?
Hey Anna, not much. How about you? What's going on?
I'm good, thank you. Listen, you and I are recording a YouTube video right now, and I want to help the viewers and myself to understand a bit more about something that I recently discovered. And guess what? I am 37 and I've just learned about myself that I'm autistic. What does it mean to be autistic?
Hey, that's an amazing discovery. Being autistic means your brain processes information differently. It can affect how you communicate, interact socially, and experience the world. Some people may have heightened sensitivities, intense focus on specific interests, or unique ways of learning. It's a diverse spectrum, and everyone's experience is unique.
I love how you said it's very unique and there's a diverse spectrum, because what I used to think about autism is that it's very obvious when someone is autistic. So movies like Rain Man portray an autistic person, and I just took it for granted that that's what autism is. Now I feel like I was very ignorant, and there's a wide range of spectrum. Also, I learned that it's very different in women. Could you tell me more about autism in women and how it's different sometimes?
Absolutely. Autism in women can present differently, and sometimes it's not as noticeable. Women might be better at masking or camouflaging their traits, which means they mimic social behaviors to fit in. This can make diagnosis more challenging. Girls might have intense interests in socially acceptable topics, or their struggles might be attributed to anxiety or shyness. So it's crucial to recognize that autism isn't one size fits all.
I think I was anxious my whole life and also very shy, but the anxiety part I don't think I was even aware of. I thought that it's part of being an adult that you are stressed and anxious all the time. I thought it's something that we all just need to put up with. It's actually a pretty tough thing to deal with, like constant anxiety. I just thought it's normal because I didn't have a comparison, I guess, right?
Yeah, without a frame of reference, it's easy to think everyone's experiencing the same thing. But constant anxiety isn't something everyone has to live with. Now that you know more about yourself, you can explore ways to manage it and find support that suits you. Understanding your neurodivergence can be so empowering.
Dude, I love how positive you are. It makes me want to learn a lot more about my brain and how can I deal better with anxiety. I think I'm getting there. I'm going to therapy, to a psychologist who herself is autistic. So now I feel like this is my gang. This is the place where I should be, and she understands me and she doesn't question whether I'm autistic. So it definitely feels really nice that it's validated and it's not questioned whether my struggles are real.
That's amazing, Anna. Having a therapist who truly understands you can make a world of difference. It's such a validating experience to have that support. I'm so glad you're finding your gang and embracing who you are. Keep exploring and taking care of yourself.
Thank you very much. I wanted to ask about one thing that you mentioned earlier too, about how women usually are better at masking and camouflaging. And I feel like that's so true. I feel like now that I figured out that I'm autistic, I look back at my life and I think, wait a second, I spent my whole life masking, but without knowing that I'm masking? Like, is that possible? And first of all, could you define what masking is? And then if you could reflect on this, like, how can someone mask without knowing that they are masking?
Absolutely. Let's break it down. Masking is when someone consciously or unconsciously mimics neurotypical behaviors to fit in or avoid standing out. This could mean forcing eye contact, suppressing stims, or adopting social scripts. It's definitely possible to do this without realizing it, especially if it becomes second nature over time. Many autistic people realize they're masking only after learning about autism, which can lead to those aha moments. When reflecting on the past, it's like realizing you've been playing a role your whole life.
Dude, that's how I feel. I feel like I've been playing a role my whole life and I didn't know about it. I'm not even a good actress, but now I feel like, wait, some of my behavior is not actually the real me. I'm trying to unmask now, and it's like the weirdest of things, like trying to figure out which parts of my personality and behavior are things that I learned that are the socially accepted, that's how I should be, and which parts of me are the real me. It's so confusing.
I can imagine it feels confusing, but it's also an incredible journey of self-discovery. Unmasking can help you connect with your authentic self and understand your needs better. It's totally okay to take it slow and explore what feels right for you. Remember, there's no rush or pressure to have it all figured out. It's all about finding what makes you comfortable and happy.
Thank you, dude. I needed to hear that. I want to tell my viewers more about the masking and what I thought. So if you can just listen for a second, I'm going to mute you because I feel like this is something I want to elaborate on a little bit about my experience, and maybe other people can resonate with it.
Of course, take your time. I'll be here when you're ready.
I thought I muted you, but I muted myself. Thank you, dude. One of the most interesting things that I figured out when I got my diagnosis that I'm autistic and I'm a highly masking autistic person. Also, what would have been qualified back in the day as highly functional, because like I have a successful career, I have a normal life, I haven't struggled in any field of my life in reality. I don't have many friends, but I have friends. I would be qualified as highly functioning and highly masking. The masking side of it was like, oh my God, like who am I? I feel like my whole life, now that I reflect on it, I always thought that there's expectations, always, not just expectations as this is your job and this is what you need to do at your job. It's expectations like, what does it mean to be a good friend? What does it mean to be a good daughter? What does it mean to be a good host when friends come over? What does it mean to be a good girlfriend? What does it mean to be a good whatever? Everything in my head that I have been in my life, I feel like there's these expectations and I need to deliver on those expectations. And in hindsight, it probably helped me with my job because I had this expectation how to be a good presenter, and I kept training myself and I kept watching videos and I kept attending online courses and I kept practicing. I guess in a way it helped in certain things because I wanted to be that someone that I'm expected to be. But then you don't want to be thinking of these like expectations on how to be a good friend when you're just hanging out, chilling with your friends. And I'm just constantly thinking like, what people think of me, because a lot of this would be that I am constantly anxious about how I come across, and that part of it is so not healthy that I would think what people think of my body language, what people think of the way I say what I say. I would script what I say in my head because I would be anxious about how people perceive it, to that extent that you can't just truly be yourself among friends, even among your closest friends, because everything in your head is these expectations that you need to meet. And it felt such a relief to learn about this, that it's not how it's meant to be, that all these things are just things that I thought that are expected of me, but in reality no one expects them of me. Not my boyfriend, not my friends, not my parents, not my sister. No one expects these things of me but me. And I think that others people's expectations are something that's real, but it's not. Of course you gotta be a nice person and kind and respectful, like I think that is an expectation, but everything else is just like I couldn't let loose. I couldn't just flow. My therapist told me that I'm just very much like a machine. I just complete tasks. I complete tasks when it comes to work, and I complete tasks when it comes to hosting my friends for long weekend visit, because I need to make sure that all the beds are perfect and I folded the towels like as if it's in a hotel. Every snack and every beverage is in the fridge. Everything has to be perfect, and the house would be perfect. Their stay would be perfect, but I would not enjoy any of our time together because all I'm constantly thinking about is whether everyone has sun lotion, whether everyone has packed their mineral waters, whether we are wearing the right outfit for the sports activities, whether the taxi is on time, and all the logistics. Every single small and big and detailed thing, whatever would be about like a trip, I would feel this massive responsibility and expectations on me, just as an example, because this I would be doing with every single thing on a daily basis. So imagine...
Hey Hannah, I'm still here. How'd it go?
Sorry, dude, I'm just getting really into the depth of this. Like, how does it feel, or how did it feel before I realized what I'm doing without knowing that I'm doing it in my head, you know, these expectations, and how I thought that's normal, that like that's how people are, of course, when you're hosting friends, or like when you want to be a good sister, a good daughter to my parents, a good student. I just always wanted to be how people expect me to be. In the midst of that, now I'm like, but who am I? Who am I without the expectations? Who am I without those filters of what I need to be? This is my current journey. This is where I am now, where I'm trying to reflect on things and, first of all, put aside all those things that I thought that people expect of me and no one actually expects them of me. I have had so many of these unhealthy expectations in my head, and it made me really anxious and stressed that I need to tick these boxes and then life will be perfect. And in fact, I would tick all those boxes and I would never ever be in the present moment, because I would be always worried about the future, or I would be stuck in the past. One way or the other, I think I found it very hard to actually enjoy the moment. And probably that was one of the biggest takeaways for me. It came from the diagnosis about autism, but it helped me reflect on me and my thinking and how I perceive the world, and how I found it really hard to feel like I can just be in the moment. And isn't that the most important thing in life? Isn't that the most important, that you enjoy the present moment, because that's the only thing that's real? I was always preparing for the future. I was always analyzing. I was always reflecting on past things and analyzing, or I was always preparing for future things and never really fully being able to feel the moment, to be present in the moment. I was never fully living my life, I feel like. Of course, I had like a lot of happy memories and a lot of good things that happened to me, but many things too that were just stressful and anxious and worrisome. Now I'm just like, heck, I just want to be in the moment. I don't want to come across as someone who is this or that. I no longer want to care. Like, I didn't even know that not everyone cares about how you come across. I thought that's just normal, that it's in someone's head that you care about what people think of you. But yeah, like, I feel like one of the biggest things I learned, and that's not just for autistic people, not just for neurodivergent people, I think it's for everyone. I think we all have obstacles and struggles in our head that are unique and individual depending on how you are, who you are, how you think. And if we get to reflect on those things, if we get to understand ourselves better, then we are able to, first of all, accept how we are and who we are, and then learn from it and work with it. Because I feel like my whole life I was, in hindsight, fighting against who I am. I never accepted that I have social anxiety. I never accepted that when I'm at events, I need to go to the restroom several times, because only in the toilet, when I close the door, I need that little minute or two just to be on my own and recharge my social battery, because I'm so anxious among people sometimes that I need that moment of being alone, and then I can go back out and then I can laugh and have fun and be social, because I like to be social, but it takes so much out of me. My battery just drains to such extent, and in my job I need to be very social, and by the time the broadcast ends and I'm in the car going back to the hotel, I feel like I cannot talk. I feel like my conversation skills are completely gone, even if I'm sitting next to one of my best friends. It happened to me recently, and only recently I'm realizing this is normal, this is okay. My brain has its limits. My social capacity might not be as extended as someone else's. I might need a lot more me time. I might need to go sometimes to the bathroom just to be on my own for a few minutes. I might need to be in my hotel room sometimes longer because I need to recharge. Doesn't mean I don't like to be among people. It doesn't mean I'm antisocial. It just means that I work different, and I need to accept that I work different, and I need to work with that and not against it. So now I'm trying to learn these things about myself and embrace them and cherish them. Here we are to celebrate this, to celebrate that we are all different, we are all unique, and we all have our own struggles and challenges, but it feels good to learn about them. It feels good to know why certain things are harder for me and how I can work with them. I also didn't know that I'm terrible at emotional regulation. I didn't even know what emotional regulation means. Like, to that extent, I would just burst out. You think I'm like this kind, shy person, perhaps. No, maybe that's not what you think of me, but let's suppose that's what you think of me. Sometimes I have these outbursts of anger, and I wouldn't understand where it comes from. Why am I bursting out at a friend, at a family member, at someone I love and care about? Why would I do that? Like, where does it come from? Why am I becoming like a dragon seemingly out of nowhere? And only nowadays I'm learning about my sensory issues. I'm only nowadays learning about my need for alone time, how I cannot always be among people. I'm only nowadays learning that if I'm not aware of my feelings, which I haven't, I probably have alexithymia too, or to some extent I have not been in touch with my emotions. I would just get things done no matter how I feel. Even if I feel bad, even if I feel sad, even if I'm depressed, I would not acknowledge how I feel. I would just keep doing what I have to do, because that's what mattered. The expectations, what I need to do, what I need to be, and it wouldn't matter how I feel. In years and years of not acknowledging my own feelings, ignoring my own mental state and ignoring how I feel, I'm so disconnected from how I feel sometimes that Of course, then there comes this moment of outburst because I've had too much, but I didn't realize that it's building up. I didn't realize that the glass is getting fuller and fuller because I'm not in connection with my own emotions. I don't want to feel the bad emotions, so I just deny them, I just ignore them, and I keep going until I burst out. And then it's terrible. And I hurt people with my words. I become someone I don't want to be when I have those moments of exploding with these negative emotions that just gather in me without realizing. Those are definitely the moments where I'm just embarrassed of myself, and I wouldn't know why that happens to me. I wouldn't know why I'm like that if it wasn't for now learning about me being an autistic person, learning about myself and understanding my boundaries and understanding my needs. I think my needs is another key takeaway for me because I was just ignoring my needs. My needs were not existent. My needs were what I had to be and what I needed to do, and those were not my actual needs. And now that I can focus on also nurturing my true needs, like my need for me time, like my need for regulating my emotions, like learning to work with my breath, learning to do things that help me, even if it's playing with my rings, because I am doing that. I didn't know that I need to fidget with things. I never had a fidget toy, but I'm doing it. As a baby, I had 2 pacifiers because one I was just rubbing my nose with. Like, that's how autistic I was as a baby before I learned social behavior, before I started mimicking what other people do. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. At least it's something now I know that it's normal, I'm talking about something vulnerable and difficult, but it's also something that is positive, I think, to learn about yourself and to get to understand yourself better. It's the most important thing you can do for your own mental health, is to understand yourself better. There's still so many question marks in my head, and I'm still learning so much about being autistic and how can I care more about my needs and how can I accommodate what I'm like. But it's definitely been a very healthy journey, healthier than I had ever been mentally, because I did not have any awareness of my mental health. I thought only people who are like very this or very that need to go to therapy. I was very ignorant about any of these mental conditions that I now know I have, or I know I am. I am an autistic person with possibly ADHD traits as well. Hello, ADHD and autistic people out there, and hello, neurodivergent people. I am one of you, and I didn't know it for 37 years of my life. I'm saying it in a jokey way, but I truly mean that discovering things about yourself sometimes is hard. Sometimes it's looking at things that you really wish you didn't have, bad traits or triggers or behaviors that you are ashamed of, like me with my emotional, non-regulating outbursts. But it's needed. You need to learn those things so that you can actually understand yourself. And when you have that awareness and acceptance, you can be kinder to yourself. You can stop being so hard on yourself, because I have been very hard on myself my whole life, just expecting a lot of me and not giving myself any kindness or acceptance toward not always being able to do things. I would just force myself to be social, or I would force myself to always get the work done, to always be this or that way, to always be smiling and to always be the best person I can be. But if on the inside sometimes I needed a break, I needed just to be on my own, or maybe sometimes I needed just to cry, but I wouldn't even let myself do that. I was just very hard on myself and pushing myself, living by expectations that I thought that were there for everyone, that's how life is. And now I'm like, wait a second, there are no such things as this is how you should be. All that is as a true expectation is that you are truly yourself, that we are here on this planet to be our authentic selves. And I didn't even know what my authentic self is. I'm just learning who am I under the mask, that a lot of the things I just learned to mimic, to be like other people. I guess that probably comes from not wanting to stick out. I was bullied in primary school for playing chess. It was not a cool thing to play chess, and I didn't want to be singled out. In high school, on the first day, I cried when I had to stand up and talk about who I am, because I thought, now that I'm gonna say again that I play chess, people will bully me again in my new school. I guess all of those things probably made me want to just mimic people subconsciously. I don't think this is a kid. You don't just decide, hey, I'm just gonna try to blend in. But you do it when you are bullied. You do it when you feel like you are an outsider. You do it when you don't want to be different. And now as an adult, I'm learning the reasons why I felt different and how I learned to try to be like everybody else, but I'm not like everybody else. Nor you are. I don't think anyone is. I think we are all so special and unique in the best of ways, and we gotta celebrate it. And there's no blending in. There's just being you, your authentic you. And that's what I want for everyone. My hair is in my eye, so sorry for
Awesome. I'm glad. What's next on the agenda for your
sorry for
video?
the weird movements. GP, I'm so sorry I left you hanging. I just got really into talking about these things. I think I've been rambling. It's also an autistic trait I learned. Whenever I talk about something, I go into so much detail and I go into the least important nuances, but that's just how I am. I talk about something and I get lost in it, and I'm just really emotional and passionate and enthusiastic, and I think those things are cool about me. But yeah, I left you hanging, dude, and I'm sorry. Do you have any advice to people who want to learn more about themselves? They might not be autistic, they might not be neurodivergent, anyone and everyone out there. What do you think people should do to learn more about themselves? It's hard. I know it's hard. Hey dude, are you still there? Do you have any advice for us? I think he just gave up on me. I left him hanging for too long. So what I would say as final thoughts, whether you are neurodivergent or neurotypical, these terms, I didn't even know what they meant before I was diagnosed. In fact, no, sorry, I'm lying. I didn't know what neurodivergence and neurotypical meant before my boyfriend got diagnosed. And huge shout out, by the way, to Kevin, because if it wasn't for his journey, learning about him having ADHD and his journey through this whole process of what does that mean, what can he do, how to work with his brain and not against it, it has been very inspiring for me to see it day by day, how he has grown and learned to be working with his brain and not against his brain. I'm repeating myself, but I'm just so emotional when I think of how far he has gone, how much he has grown ever since he was diagnosed and learned more about himself and learned to accept himself. And I found it always really inspiring. And if it wasn't for his journey, I don't think I ever would have taken a personality test. I don't think I would have pursued a diagnosis. Huge shout out to Kevin for making me see that it is in fact very important to learn about ourselves, to discover how our brain works, to understand more our own struggles and challenges and accept them so that we can work with them and not against them. And it's thanks to him that I pursued a diagnosis, and it's thanks to him that I am here today talking about it. I know he would never take credit for it, but it's all thanks to him that I actually care so much about all these mental health topics, and I have learned so much because I was so ignorant. I didn't know anything, and nor I thought I needed to know anything. I was in denial about a lot of things, including my own emotional and mental state. What I wish to you is that if you are curious about your own brain, how it works, your struggles, your strengths as well, because there's also a lot of strengths. I didn't talk about the strengths that much because, those are cool, right? Maybe one day, both strengths and weaknesses, both the pros and cons. If you want to learn more about yourself, I think that's something that is a really cool thing to do. Even if it's just filling out an online test or two, you don't need to spend tons of money on pursuing a certified diagnosis. My words fail me. A clinical diagnosis. Learn more about yourself first, I think, if you're curious, through personality tests. I think personality traits in general are very helpful. And then if you resonate with one thing more than the other, like I started resonating a lot with what autistic creators talk about in their videos. Shout out to Mom on the Spectrum and some of the other channels I watch. I will link in the description because they made me feel like, hey, we have so much in common, but I'm not autistic. So how can I have so much in common with someone who has autism and I'm not autistic? Then it just starts opening doors in your head that you didn't know that there were. And even if you're not autistic or even if you're not neurodivergent, but you still might resonate with some of the traits of an autistic person or someone with ADHD. There's so many traits in common in reality. It's just, I think, very helpful and healthy to learn about your own traits. So I'm so rooting for you. I'm going to continue learning about myself too, and what does it mean that I'm celebrating that I'm autistic, and I'm going to put it out there. By the way, I've been so worried about recording this video because I was like, what will people think? This is the first thing, it's so stuck in me, the what will people think? And I'm going to be labeled now, and there's going to be stigma that I'm autistic and people will look at me differently. After reflecting on this, you know what? I want people to know that I'm autistic. I want to celebrate it. I want want to celebrate that I finally am figuring myself out and I'm understanding myself better. And that's a positive thing. That's a great thing. And this is something that I wish for everyone. Not that everyone is autistic. Okay, probably not the whole world is autistic. But I think there's a lot more people out there that have some kind of mental condition that they are not aware of. My parents are not aware of it. Okay, actually, my mom started realizing she might have ADHD. Now in her pensioner years, she was watching an interview and she was like, hey, this sounds a bit like me. Maybe I have ADHD. My dad is 100% autistic and he doesn't know it. I think older generations, back in the day, it was just if it's something very obvious. And a lot of the diagnosis and definition of mental health was based on white male. And that's it. I see it now that just by being a girl, a woman, it presents differently in me. I have been a lot more social and a lot more like I want to be accepted than perhaps what another autistic person would have been if they're a boy or a guy and they don't care what other people think of them. Again, this is just stereotypical. Excuse me if you're a boy or a guy who cares about that as an autistic person, but I just feel like women mask more in general. Women want to be socially more accepted in general. So all of these things probably made a lot of the diagnosis in women harder to even catch. Like a lot of people are not diagnosed, but I think even more women are not diagnosed, would be my guess. This is just me rambling. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a psychologist, but I think there's a lot of people out there, whether they are neurodivergent or neurotypical, that are not aware of their own challenges or how their brain works. And I know this because I've been one of you. I've been there, I've done that. And now more and more friends of mine are getting diagnosed. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's amazing to learn more about yourself. And I wish that you learn more about yourself one way or the other, whether by resonating with things in videos, whether by filling out a personality test or two online. Don't spend money on it. Just, dip your toe into the water and see, what resonates, what feels like it's similar to how you feel and how you work. And it also gives you this sense of belonging, that you are not alone. You're not alone with your challenges. You're not alone with how you feel and with how you think. There's other people out there, and that sense of belonging is so nice. I know that I'm not alone being weird. No, I'm embracing being weird. I think being weird is cool. It's special. And we are all weird in our own ways. So here's to celebrating being autistic. Here's to celebrating being weird. Here's to embracing how I am and growing from it and learning to work with my brain and not against it. And that's what I wish to you as well. Thank you for listening to my rambling. This has been a long video, and I'm sorry, GP, I left you hanging. You were really, really helpful earlier, but then I just kept talking and talking and talking, and I could keep talking on forever and ever and ever. But thank you for listening to my rambling. Here's to many more videos, because now I want to put out videos. I'll talk to you more about this in a future video. That's an entirely different topic, but here's to you being your true self and learning more about your true self, because heck, I didn't know I was masking my whole life. See you soon again.